What's up? Juno here. And I just got done watching a brand new video by the Amazing Believer, or as I like to call him, the Unamazing Believer, but that's just splitting hairs here. And I would probably recommend you pause this and watch his video first, but it's called Does Religion Cause War, or Lead to War? So in this video, he is trying to, well, he has it titled as Does Religion Lead to War, but he only focuses on Christianity, so I think it should be retitled Does Christianity Lead to War? It'd be more fitting. But he goes on and he tries to present an argument by saying that if someone is believing in the true biblical Christianity, that it doesn't lead to war. And then he brings up some examples that are very valid, but he seems to think that, oh, well, it's not true biblical Christianity. That is known as the No True Scotsman fallacy, Amazing Believer. You can sit here and split hairs and argue all you want about whether someone is supposedly a true Christian or not, but it's going to take you a long time. Because in the world currently, there's over 30,000 different sects of Christianity. 30,000. And I'm going to bet that there are probably a lot of Christians that do not believe in the same things that you take as true. And because of that, they would look at you and say the same thing. You're not a true Christian. And you see how that doesn't make much sense, because you're just going to be bickering and arguing about minute details that one person might think is true and the other might think that's not. A perfect example of this would be someone who is an evangelical Christian and believes in the literal six-day, creation story and all that stuff, and someone who is a more moderate Christian who doesn't necessarily buy into that. Yeah, it's a great story about things, but they're more leaning to the side with science and progress and the bits that have evidence to back it up. Now, also, another thing is, with the current situation right now that's going on in the Middle East between our country and the various countries over there, and the ones that have been happening since 9/11 for the most part, or after 9/11, while it's not viewed officially as a religious war, it sure as hell seems to be. And the people that we're fighting against in the Middle Eastern countries view this as a religious war. And you even have some people who are on our side fighting in our military believing it's a religious war, and we've heard politicians in the past recent years saying that they seem to think that it's a religious war. Sarah Palin, anybody? I'm not saying she's the beacon of any sort of intellectual example, but she has presented in her opinions publicly, for the most part, that she believes that this is a message from God or some bullshit. So you have people that are convinced that this is some God-given task that needs to be fulfilled, when really it's destructive. And honestly, religions bicker back and forth constantly, and religions, for the most part, especially how they're divided and based on tenets and stuff like that, they're very divisive. Because, like you're presenting in this video, you're saying, well, if it's true biblical Christianity, then there's no problems with it. But even in the Bible, as you brought up in this example, you said there are certain characters that were supposedly instructed by God to go and wipe out certain populations of people because in the supposed God's eyes, being depicted in the Bible, they were sinning. So that loving and just God sent someone to go and kill them all. How was that loving and just? That doesn't make much sense to me at all. That's destructive. That's vile. That shows that this supposed being that watches over everybody holds the deepest contempt for his game, basically. It's all a game if this God in fact exists, which there's no evidence to support that, but I guess if you're going to delude yourself that far, it doesn't really matter. But if I could sum this up in one line, it's just, even one word, it's just one big fallacy. That's what it is. You need to take a logic and reasoning class to understand where you faltered. Maybe you'll open your eyes to this. And it seems like you're changing your mind and wavering back and forth a lot, considering how you've threatened to close down your channel a bunch of times and stuff like that. You can't seem to make up your mind about any of that. So I don't think you can rationalize this away, at least not with the reasoning you're using. You could say war is bad, but then again, he didn't really support it one way or another. Or maybe he seems to think that because his version, or he views his version of Christianity as the true biblical kind, because he is supposedly a true Christian, he's in the good, and everyone else is in the red, for the most part. No. No. You're all deluded. So, that's what it comes down to. You can't do the type of linguistic trickery, or the semantic bullshit, or the lack of reasoning, for the most part. But another thing that it seems like a lot of Christians don't practice what they preach is, aren't you instructed by your God not to judge others? That's reserved for that supposed being. Why are you making videos kind of trying to judge the others that are, at least in the broader sense, part of your religion? You're doing that. Do you not realize that? You don't seem to pay attention to your religion that closely. But you know what? That's not surprising, because most people that claim to be Christians don't know what the hell their religion's about anyway. So, I don't know. But if you haven't watched it already, you should definitely check out his video. I'll link it below so you can get some lulls out of it. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Do your part. Blaspheme daily.